Okay, so I just want to make a little video about women in Judaism, try to answer some questions that people always ask me as somebody who was not observant and was not connected at all to Judaism really for most of my life. And I was a woman out in the world with my own independent woman, with my own business, with my own money, with my own house. Wasn't really that interested in getting married and having a family. That all those things seem kind of like antiquated ideologies. Like I just didn't see really the point of it. And maybe in fact in today's culture, whatever, really what I don't know really if there is a point other than, in general, it doesn't seem like there is, but our ideology as Jews, as the nation of Israel, is not the same ideology as the other 70 nations. And if you don't know who these other 70 nations are, where the lineage of the Jewish people, where we came from, I have other classes on my YouTube channel, From Me to Jew, which will explain the situation in terms of like who the Jews are and why our ideology is different than the 70 nations. And of course, I mean, we don't really see these 70 nations. We know who some of them are. Everyone got mixed over the generations. But one thing that never changed was the Jewish nation, our connection to God, and the Torah, which is the truth. Torah, which is the truth. Because the truth actually never changes over time. The truth stays the same. Otherwise, it wouldn't be true. If, like some of the ideologies of the 70 nations, they change over time. What's accepted in society now is not what was accepted before. What was before is now outdated. Every time they learn new things and change accordingly. Well, the Torah doesn't change, and it's not because it's antiquated and a bunch of dummies just go after something that was ancient and never changed, and we're not progressive or something like that. No, but when you actually learn Torah and you learn the truth of, you can start to see the how the lies get mixed in with the truth here. And that's actually we're in the world of lies. That's actually what the Torah said, world of lies. That this world is a world of lies. There will be an end to this world, by the way. There's only 7,000 years that this world can exist, and we are in the year 5,783. The 7th millennia will be the Messianic age. Mashiach. The Mashiach will come before that, but the 7th millennia will be a Messianic age where there will be no more world of lies, or it won't be mixed. The tree of good and evil, it won't be mixed. Good and evil won't be mixed. And it's very hard to see what's good and what is evil. I also have classes on that on my YouTube channel, From Me to Jew. But everything will be the truth. And we're going towards the eternal world of truth. We're told in the Torah that there is a world of truth. After this world, there'll be another world. That's the eternal world. Eternal. Where, I'm not going to get into too much of that. But so right now we're in the world of lies. Olam Ashekel in Hebrew. So I want to explain women in Judaism, the role of women in Judaism, how I feel personally about it, coming from this ideology of feminism, of where family unit is basically not really, not really a goal, I don't think, and children and all that stuff. It's not the same anymore here in this ideology in popular culture and in most of society today. We want equality, or the emphasis is on equality. And I was always I always thought feminism as a ideology was pretty radical in a lot of ways. I mean, I didn't really consider myself a feminist in terms of the ideology, but I liked, I did think that men and women were equal but different. And I think a lot of what happened in the feminist movement was that they didn't want to be different. They wanted to be the same. So instead of being equal but different, and you know, understanding that there are two genders only, two genders, and two, like the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and that they're both different. They're both different, and but equal. Like one shouldn't be, subordinating the second, or one's not more superior. But in the world of lies, it does seem better to be a man, right? So I want to go into a little bit of what the Torah says about women, and what it is like being an Orthodox, observant Jewish woman, and having coming out of this ideology into the Torah. Like, how am I able to accept now my role as a woman in Judaism? And I'm going to talk a little bit about the ego. I did study yoga for a long time, and I worked on my ego a lot, and I still do, because in the Torah, that's called, you're working on your midot, on your characters, and one of them is to subdue your ego and control your emotions. So let's just get into it a little bit. God made man and woman together, okay? He made them together as one soul. One soul. Man and woman in the image of God. Okay? So this is as the perfect world that God created. Man and woman were equal. They were half of one soul. Together they were one soul. Together Adam and Eve were one soul. I'm not going to go into a lot of the spiritual stuff. Again, check out my YouTube channel. I explain a little bit more. But what happened was, in the Garden of Eden at the beginning, Eve sinned. The female aspect of the soul sinned, and she caused, they were separated physically, and Eve caused Adam to sin. Eve sinned, and she caused Adam to sin, and as a result, the spiritual quality of reality fell. It was supposed to be perfect, spiritually perfect, spiritual and physical, in harmony, living in a perfect world. But because of the sin, a plurality was created, and because of that, there was a bigger separation now from God and the spiritual. And it kept on falling, by the way, over the generations, okay? We're not going to go into that now. I just want to talk about the fact that Eve did cause Adam to sin. So it was basically Eve's responsibility. She brought death into the world. Before that, they weren't supposed to die. Eve brought death into the world. And so there are still male and female souls. And again, they're half a soul without your mate. That's why it's so important to get married in Judaism. It's a mitzvah to get married, and you're not even really counted as a person, as a whole, as a whole complete person. Same person, but I don't mean person. But on the spiritual level, you're not complete until you have your female or male counterpart. Okay, because there is one that is acting and one that is more passive. So when you look at, I'm just going to give an obvious example about it's called mashpia ve'mekabel, the active, or the giver and the receiver. Okay, and those are the male and female energies, the male and female genders. The male is the one acting, and the female is the one receiving. So just in terms of, let's say, creating a baby, the male gives the sperm to the female, and she then nurtures it, and it grows in her. She's a nurturer. She's the receiver. Okay, but they act together. Without her, so they act together. Okay, we need each other, male and female, and there's different roles. Okay, but in this world of lies, the way the societies are set up, and even within Orthodox Judaism, it can be misunderstood or practiced maybe not in the most ideal way. Let's just put it that way. Okay, but I'm not even going to get into that right now. I'm just going to go for like what actually is supposed to be and why it's that way, and what some of the complexities of the situation that maybe are off-putting to women. But again, understand that what's getting hurt in all of this stuff is our ego as women. Our ego. Okay, let me explain. The first thing that we may notice is the morning prayer for the men. I'm just going to do this all in English. Okay, so they say every morning, men say, thank you for not making me. Blessed are you for not making me a woman. First of all, they say, blessed are you for not making me a slave. And then right after that, they say, blessed are you for not having made me a woman. So that doesn't feel very good as a woman. It feels actually kind of bad. And when I first saw that, because I wasn't familiar with anything, like I said, about Judaism, and I didn't know that they said that every morning, and that kind of annoyed me. And then when I asked rabbis, by the way, I had like a male prayer book at the beginning, so I didn't even know that there was something else that women say. Well, women say, instead of saying that, they don't say, they say, thank you for blessed is he. We don't even say the name of God in this because I'll explain what I think that is, but I'll tell you also what I was told. Blessed is he for having made me according to his will. So if you're a man, you say, thank you for not making me a woman. Chas v'shalom, God forbid there may be a woman in this world. But what's more, if you're a woman, you just say, thank you for making me according to his will. Now, when I asked rabbis about that, I've asked a few of them. Right at the beginning, when I didn't really understand anything, I didn't do my own research and learn Torah or whatever, which I do now. And I have my own ideas, anyway, but the rabbis say, well, women, where from their soul comes from is higher than where man's come from. And so they're more naturally connected to God. But men, they don't have that natural connection to the spiritual. They're more physical. So they have to work harder for their connection with God. And so they thank God for being able to work for it, because everything in the Olam HaEmet, in the eternal world of truth, depends on what you do in this reality, in this physical reality. You're judged based on what you do, your sins and your merits and your mitzvot. And God gave us 613 mitzvot to do that will basically earn us a place in the eternal world, because they explain that our soul will be doesn't want a handout. Eventually we're all going to know about God, but we want to earn it by learning about it in this reality where it's not very obvious, because there's a world of lies, because our reality fell in the quality of spiritual, in a spiritual nature. It fell and it got less and less and less spiritual, and more physical, and we got farther and farther and farther away from God. So it's less obvious about God. So if you work to learn about God, then you have merit, which will serve you in the world to come. And so men, apparently, so that's one, and it's not that it's not true. It is true that they have a lot of merit when they work hard to have a connection with God and to become more spiritual. And that's one of their purposes in life. Okay, it's a purpose in life in general for the female and male, both to know to know our Creator, who is God, who gave us the Torah. Okay, and so we learn that information was unbroken from the time of Adam and Eve through Shem to Noah. Again, this is all on my YouTube channel. Look at different classes where I explain all this. From Noah to Shem to Avraham, who personally went out and looked for the creator of the universe, of the creator of everything, because he was born into a time of idolatry. Because what happened was, after the flood happened and everyone was destroyed because they were extremely wicked, Noah was chosen to repopulate the earth after that, repopulate the world, with his sons Ham, Yafet, and Shem. Okay, but Ham was wicked, and so that line is cursed, okay? And don't think that these people don't exist. Some of these nations were destroyed, not all of them, not all of the nations, and also not all of the people within the nations. So again, all of this is explained in previous classes. But so Ham, Yafet, and Shem all repopulated the world, and from them comes 70 nations. These are like root nations where everyone in the world comes from. But out of Shem, so Noah cursed Ham, and he blessed Yafet with everything to do with the physical world. He blessed him with all of that. And from Yafet comes Greece, and that's a lot of different kinds of philosophies and science and physical information, and culture, all that stuff. And then he blessed his other son Shem with the knowledge and information of the spiritual information of God. Because here, the people of the flood, before the flood, they didn't worship God anymore. Okay, they started worshiping the forces that God had created. God created everything, and with it he also created the angel of death, for example, and all these other forces which these people in the flood worshipped as gods, and they forgot about God. And the same thing here with the 70 nations is most of them, and not individuals from these nations, because also individuals from these nations can come over and become part of the nation of Israel if they convert in a orthodox way. It has something to do with the soul, and I'm not going to get into it right now, but I'm talking in general as the nations. So the nations have their own ideologies, okay, and their own energies that they worship as gods that are not God, okay? It's not actually God. It's different forces, the sun, the moon, the different names that they've given their gods, and they do have energies to them. It's not like when we think about idol worshipers, we just think like, oh, you just made a statue and it has nothing to it. Like they were smart people. There are smart people here. They're just not connected to God, the creator of the universe. And God created the angel of death, who is Satan, because he has a role. And actually Satan is loyal to God. He does what God tells him to do. God created him to be the angel in charge of destruction. So of death, of all that stuff. But what happened was a lot of these people from the 70 nations started worshiping Satan as a god. And they still do today, okay? So check out some of my other classes. I talk about that, and also what's happening in the world today. Okay, so but Shem was blessed by Noah with all the information from God, all the spiritual information. And from this line of Shem came Abraham and Sarah, okay? And Abraham and Sarah had a personal relationship with God. Now, we said that Eve sinned and caused Adam to sin. So it's basically there is something to that the woman in this world it's better, let's just put, okay, it is better to be a man in this world of lies, though. But because Eve sinned and she brought death into the world, all women are working towards, or we're trying to work towards correcting her sin, which is, how do we do that? With making challah, with lighting the candles on Shabbat, and being modest. Okay, these are the things also that we're judged on as women. Okay, and our goal is to basically support our husbands, to get married for also, which again is not really a part of the 70 nation ideology. There's really no need, because what's the point of living? What's the point of life for the 70 nations? It's just to have a good life. it's hedonism, it's YOLO, you only live once. Also not true because there's reincarnation, which I'll talk about a little bit. It's to self-actualize, to be the best that you can be, to, make a name for yourself, to feed your ego, to have fun. And that's fine for them, but it's not fine for the nation of Israel, who has a connection with God, who's promised the eternal world, who knows the spiritual information because it's given in the Torah, which is the truth. So for us, we have a different philosophy on life, and we have a different goal in life, which is to do the correction of the initial sin that happened, to return the quality of the spiritual to a higher quality. And so where God is known in our reality, where there's no more mix of good and evil, world of lies, where we turn it around, so to speak, and so God is known in our existence, and everyone knows God, just like they did when we got the Torah. Everybody in the world knew about God, and everyone knew that God was the God of Israel, that Israel served God directly, and that all of the blessings and all of the abundance from the source came through to our physical reality through the Jews doing their job in the temple, and then giving it to the rest of the world. And there was peace, and there was health, and there was knowledge, and everything came down. That's the right way. So through this line, then we see came the nation of Israel through Avraham. Okay, and so when we see that the men say, thank you for not making me a woman, it's because in this reality, in the world of lies, it's better to be a man. Just objectively, you can see that. I mean, otherwise there would have been no reason for feminism and the fight for equality. And now what we see happening, okay, so the mix of good and evil in this world, in this lies, it's a very slow fomenting ideology that leads somewhere, okay? And it leads to chaos. You can see it speeding up in the world now, but it started with the idea of feminism, of equality, which sounds like a good idea. It is good. We want to be equal to men in this. We want to not be second-class citizens or whatnot, and we want to have our voice heard and all that stuff. So it started with feminism and equality, but it's gotten to the point where there's a destruction of the family unit. There's no longer a need to get married, which is not true now. It's also the idea in Judaism, like I said, is that your soul is only half a soul. When you come together, you become a whole soul. But in this ideology, in the 70 nation ideology, you are one. You're encouraged to be one whole. You don't need anyone else. You have to be fulfilled yourselves. And then once you become fulfilled and you don't need someone to completely complete you, you go ahead and find someone else. That's like the ideal way to find a mate, is to complete yourself, be self-sufficient, be contained or whatever, and actualized, and then find someone else who's worked on themselves to become a whole person. And then together you're like two separate people who have come together and, have some things and work together, but also be separate. But in Judaism, that's not true. In Judaism, we know that you're only half until you get married. And then you become one. You're counted as one. You're counted as a soul. And we see that when Yaakov goes down to Egypt, he goes with 70 souls. Okay, and we know that everyone was married to be counted as one soul. So it's man and female, male and female, man and woman. Through marriage, okay? There's no hooking up. There's no living together. There's no, you have to be married in an orthodox way, according to the laws of Israel and the Torah and Moses. Okay? So, one other thing. Okay, so the truth is basically that in this world, you should thank God for not being a woman if you're a man, because it's better to be a man than a woman. And we can see that, okay? But I always felt like it was a little patronizing to say to me, now I'm to say, thank you for making me according to your will. And I don't think okay, maybe our souls do come from a different place, and maybe it's higher. Maybe we inherently have a better connection to Hashem because we can also cry more, and it's more socially accepted for us to cry. And, I don't know. But we also know that there is something called reincarnation, and reincarnation is a punishment for your soul if you didn't achieve what you're supposed to achieve here. And also, by the way, in other spiritual practices like yoga, for example, they talk a lot about reincarnation. And one of the goals of being a spiritual seeker in the Eastern philosophies is to get out of it's karma, basically. So get out of the cycle of karma and not be reincarnated. And I'm not going to go into those philosophies, but they do also come from Avraham. Avraham, after Sarah died, Avraham had other sons with Keturah, who was also Hagal. Excuse me, we'll talk about that in another class. And they had sons who they sent to the east. So even in India, they have a caste system, and their priestly caste is called Brahman. Abraham, Brahman, they called them Brahman. So these were the sons of Avraham and Keturah. So again, not these people coming from Ham and Yafet, but again coming from Shem, where they do have a spirituality to them, okay? So we're talking about reincarnation now. When a man, because we said the man is the mashpia, man is the active, and the female is the passive, okay? Also, this is also in yoga where there's the sun energy and the moon energy, where the sun is active, the moon is passive, the sun is day, the moon is night. But who cares about that? I'm just making parallels, that the fact that the sun shines with its own light, where the moon just reflects the sun's light. Okay, so it's passive. And so too with the man, with the male and female. And so we're told that when men come, because their purpose is to learn Torah, and they have to learn Torah in this world, but they have to share their Torah. And if they don't share their Torah, then they can be reincarnated as a woman in the next life. So it's a punishment. So if you are a man in this world, and then you can say thank you. Blessed is God for making me a man, because you're not being punished. This isn't a reincarnation where you're being punished for being a woman. Now, if you're born a woman in this world, though, it could either be that you are a man being punished in this reincarnation, in which case it's the will of Hashem. So blessed is he for having made me according to his will. That's his will. You don't know. We don't know. I don't know if I'm if I'm a male soul being punished in a woman's body, or if I'm a female if I'm a female soul in a female body, and now it's just how it is. I'm still not thanking God for being a woman, because it's not great to be a woman in this world. Ultimately, it's fine. Ultimately, it's good, and we have a role, and we are to be honored and nurtured as for our role, but we have to know what our role is in this world, and it's to be a helper to our husband, so our husbands can learn Torah and do mitzvot and elevate themselves, and so we can ultimately do this tikkun and get out of the world of lies, have the Messiah come and go into the world of truth with God. So, but that whole thing too with the reincarnation, is just kind of feeding into this transgender ideology, which at its very, very root, I guess there's something to talk about there, because you could be a male soul reincarnated in a female body, but that's not what's happening here. So I'm not going to talk about the transgender ideology and whose it is and why it is. And who they're serving there. One of their deities is transgender, basically. But the fact that it's all more out in the open now, and everything's kind of going towards chaos, and the blending where once it was feminism, where women were trying to get equality with men, now men are becoming women, and now there actually is a war on women. And it's a really weird thing, but I can talk about it, I guess, at another time. But if you think about it, like even just look at sports competitions and stuff where now you're a female, born female, and now you're swimming against a man who is now identifying as a woman ideologically. I mean, it's like, is there equality anymore? Is that what we were trying to achieve for feminism and equality? Now, if a man is a woman, a man, like, where is a woman now? Where is a woman in this ideology? Yeah, even like the beauty queens are men. Even the Victoria's Secrets models, by the way, a lot of them are men, transgender, whatever. So, I mean, yeah, that's what I want to say. So, yes, the truth hurts a little bit. You have to subdue your ego a little bit to accept any truth. Like, for example, if somebody says, "Hey, do I look fat in this outfit?" The truth may be yes. When you're asking, you kind of don't want to hear yes. You want to hear no. So if somebody says, "Yes, you look fat in that outfit," that kind of sucks to hear, but that's the truth. So the truth actually kind of sucks a little bit in a way. But you just got to put it in perspective. You have to work on your ego, because that can get you in a lot of trouble. And maybe I'll do another class about the ego and emotions, because that's kind of like this negative force from the inside. We have to fight as people looking for God and trying to live according to the Torah and practicing Judaism. We have to look at our inner environment, like our ego and our emotions. And we have to subdue them in order to let the light of God in and understand the Torah and know the truth. So sometimes the truth hurts, but it only hurts our ego. So there's different aspects to ourselves. Like there's our personality and our self. And our ego is part of your personality. And your soul, let's just say right now, just for the sake of this argument here, is more like your soul, is more yourself. Like the to-do part is your personality and your ego, and the to-be part is your self and your soul. So when you look at it from this way, we have a role, and if we're doing our role properly and we're doing the tikkun of the sin that the Eve created, then we're called women of valor. Women of valor. Eshet Chayil also. You know, when they say behind every great man, there's a greater woman. Well, it's true. Abraham was great. He had a personal relationship with God and a covenant with God. And behind him was Sarah, who we know that God talked to Sarah. It's the only woman that we know that he talked to. There were other women also, I can talk about them, but I'm just talking right now about Sarah. She's the mother, one of the mothers of Judaism, the original. But God told Abraham, listen to whatever Sarah says, you do. Because Sarah had a greater level of prophecy than did Abraham. Sarah lived every single day of her life perfectly. Sarah was perfect. She was perfect, and she was beautiful, and she was modest. She was the most beautiful woman in the entire world, and she was extremely modest. She never came out. She didn't of her tent when there were visitors, whatever. We're told a lot of things about Sarah. So it would behoove, I think, any woman of Judaism to emulate Sarah. An archetype for, all of our personalities and our ego, and what affects like this interaction between the personality, the ego, and the soul is programmable, let's just say. So there's a lot of outside factors that can shape who you are and who you think you are and how you see reality and how you interact with reality. And a lot of people, without knowing, have taken for themselves different archetypes of female roles or female role models, and that influences their personalities. So King Solomon said, I think it's in Kohelet, where he says that he saw once two houses, and one garden was very messy with a lot of weeds and a lot of garbage and whatever, and it didn't look like anyone was home there in that house. But right next door there was a garden that was perfectly manicured, and there were lots of flowers growing, and it was beautiful and peaceful and lovely. And he knew by looking at these two gardens that somebody was at home here in this house. Somebody was taking care of this garden. And so too, the takeaway from that is that your mind is like that. If you are not actively gardening or tending your mind, then weeds are growing there. It's like chaos is there. Chaos. And there are influences in this world that are acting on your mind. Some intentionally and some just unintentionally, because through movies, through books, through everything that you hear from the minute that you understand anything, you do try to kind of have a model, some sort of model of what you should be like, what your personality is like, you see a lot of personalities are kind of the same, and you see like, oh, one celebrity is like this, and then a bunch of people are now talking like this or acting like this, or dressing like this. That's their ideology. We see like the celebrities, and those are things that we know, like through movies, through TV, through books, through whatever it is, some sort of archetype being put up for you to emulate, okay? For your personality, to model your own personality after that. And if you're not careful, you just unconsciously slip into that kind of somebody else is tending your garden, and it's usually chaos. But if you are in charge of your mind, then you should look for women in the Bible to emulate, like Sarah, like Miriam, like, I guess there were 7 Neviot, 7 prophets, female prophets, 7 that we know. Sarah, Rivka was like Sarah. Rivka tried to be like Sarah. So that's the situation. We can't thank God. We know that after this world, when we go to the world of Emet, and we are equal, then we are equal. There's no inherent difference in terms of what's better or what's worse in truth. But in this world, it's probably better to be a man.